things you do.
Love it.
You can have everything in the world and you still have to use the telephone.
Right.
Okay, peace and light. All right, we are there. It is showing us. This is so interesting. Much love and light to all of my EM healing listeners. Peace and light. This is Mahatma Starseed. And I have with me Andrea Wall.
Yeah.
And she is guest hosting with me with the Elite Talks conversation today. We were just a tidbit late for our 222 portal moment. However, it was definitely worth it. We pushed through the resistance and we are here. We're here to have today's conversation. We're going to be elevating the conversation. We actually met previously on another podcast called Trends Leadership, where we were talking about our failures and how we've led through the success of them. And so I invited her to come onto my platform and to just lighten up the conversation a little bit more and talk about more about, our professionalism, our life, changing through this dynamic and how we can help share this with you so that you can get yourself more acclimated as well. That's why we're here, right? We're keeping it light, we're keeping it, continuous, and we're going to keep it short today because we got some technical difficulties. So if anything happens, just please understand that it's not me, it's not her, it's the other one. But anywho, I'm going to pass it over for my co-host to fully introduce herself and take it away. Please let everybody know who you are and where you are.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I love the shift in my name. I can be Andrea Well today. I love that energy for this Wednesday. That's great. So hi, folks. I am Andrea Wall. I'm a leadership coach from Vancouver, Canada. So I'm in the Pacific Northwest. And that's super grateful always to live, work, and play on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations. I am a here we go. All of a sudden I get tongue-tied. But I'm a leadership coach and I work with heart-centered and mid-career women to kind of help them get stuck, like out of the ruts that we're stuck in, and kind of re-energized about life and work. And made some big changes during the pandemic, left my kind of nonprofit social innovation career about 15 years, and moved across the Rockies to the coast. And so I'm kind of in this phase of reimagining what my life is looking like going forward, kind of at that mid-30s. Oh my goodness, I've been doing this for so long, and what's really kind of filling my heart and fueling me, and looking forward, what do I want in my life and what do I want that to look like? And I think, like a lot of us, the pandemic really sparked some changes. It shifted our social context, it shifted work context, all of a sudden working from home. And so, yeah, really great time for some reimagining. So that's who I am. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
Oh, thank you. That was a beautiful intro about yourself. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the space. It was a really great conversation that we had, being able to help us redefine failure. I'm pretty sure that 2020 pushed us all the way into that. Like failure, no. We're not going to do this failure. We're not going to do that. But what we will do is acknowledge it.
Yeah, we're going to have a really hard reset placed upon all of us. And then it's our kind of job and responsibility to figure out, okay, well, context has changed. Now, who are we and how do we want to show up in the world at this crazy juncture in time?
Yeah, I really didn't think about having so many guests on a live platform like this until 2020.
Okay.
Before I was doing it maybe here and there, but it definitely was like the first thought though. As soon as the world shut down, I was like, oh, we can just do virtual. We're gonna have some virtual engagements and get more, intimate in how we're unfolding.
Yeah.
And I had created actually a show with some other partners back in 2020 called the Galactic Force 3. And we had like a slew of people. At that point, it was like 3 hosts,
Mm-hmm.
and I was one of them. And so it really redefined feeling comfortable with coming and bringing on, professional individuals to come and talk about, who they're being, showing how they can like articulate themselves,
Yeah.
and being able to like fast forward and seeing like now, and like I don't even think it really dawned on me that we were going to be talking to like so many people from different countries and states.
Yeah, I think that's been one of my favorite parts of the pandemic as well. I worked in the nonprofit sector, which is like usually really hyper local to the communities that you're working in, certainly in the social service delivery side of things. The problems are universal around poverty and newcomer integration and seniors and isolation and that, but the responses are tailored in community. And so my personal and professional networks were very local and very strong. And then with the pandemic and everything basically running online overnight, I was running a social innovation like entrepreneurship program for some university students at the time in my day job, and we flipped the program. It was supposed to start mid-April when the students got out of university, and it was going to be an in-person 4-month program, and we flipped it online fairly quickly. And it was amazing because a lot of them went back to where they were from, and they didn't end up staying in our city. And it worked. And then it's just continued to work. As about a year later, I ended up starting my own coaching practice. And I absolutely love that last night via Upwork, I was on a coaching call with someone who is calling from Pakistan. And now we're chatting to you in Jersey. And I've like had clients in Australia and just amazing conversations. That podcast that we did together, we were all in different cities. Like, technology absolutely can be a barrier to connection, but I think when we use it really intentionally as well, it makes it easier to kind of call in our people, and
Yeah.
we can form some really powerful relationships through screens.
Yeah, 100%. And even with the debris that we were dealing with to get to come on, and
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't have to redo this, but we do have to like figure out how to make this happen. And so this is definitely different for me going live on my Elite Talks on my phone. Usually I do if it's just me, and
Right.
being able to just like assimilate onto here very quickly. I'm happy that I have like some practice. I don't feel so frazzled.
Completely. A lot of practice.
Right.
But a 2-minute shift realistically from, okay, laptop's not working for whatever reason, the internet's not coming through, and then, oh, here's another device, let's try that. Same platforms, everything syncs across. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was looking on the backlog too, because I was like, are we really live? Is this really happening? While you're introducing yourself. And I'm like, okay, because I want to make sure we can share this. I really like streaming on this platform because I feel like it keeps the log better than like doing it on the other platforms. I'm not going to name any names, but like the other platforms have so much like written content, like these kind of things will get like, bunched in, and you're not gonna be able to see it. So having it on like a really specific site has been really, really big. I've enjoyed switching this professionalism of the mind state for the internet, because it just before 2020 it really was not being taken that serious. I know this for one because I was actually like spearheading creating like internet workshops, like, and people were just like not really like appealing to it. But like fast forward 3 months later, everyone's stuck in the house. If you have no choice, if you want to get some engagement, it's going to need to be most likely through this kind of platform.
Completely. You're ahead of the curve.
Right. So I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
since both of us have been experiencing all this digital mania, what is the most surprising country that you see similar professionals coming out and connecting with you?
Ooh, that's a great question. Honestly, I'm mostly working, I think, well, because of the time zones in Canada and the US. And so I'm on the West Coast, so I'm 3 hours behind you, and then Europe is 8 hours ahead. So the workday is almost, it's basically done when I'm just getting started. And I'm not a morning person either, so I try not to take calls until 10. One of the absolute perks of working for yourself and kind of being intentional around designing your life and not to the theme, subscribing to other people's professionalism. I've had 8 o'clock starts for 15 years and I'm over it when it's in my control. But I would say it's been fun. I've worked with a couple of people from like Scandinavian countries. And so seeing, I don't know, just seeing a different sliver of the world and like slightly different kind of perspective, of course, because where we're from kind of shapes our worldview in part, at least. That's been fun. And one client, she's wonderful client. She's also a coach. And a friend, she splits her time between Australia, Sydney specifically, and then Finland, which is where her husband and family is from. So 6 months in each place. And so the contrast between sunny, warm, outgoing Australia and like a more frigid and formal society, my words, of course, feel free to disagree if you're watching from Finland, has been really cool to see, and just how we can run businesses across time zones and countries and like live our lives has been really cool. How about you? Any amazing countries that you've interacted with?
Yeah. I feel like I didn't realize how much Australia was really up to par with a lot of the let's call the new wave being.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that Canada is so close, and we are resonating a lot. Like, it's been a lot of Canadian energy for sure, especially like Canadian West Side energy. Specifically. And I'm like, so am I opening up energy to go to Canada? Like, I'm open to this. I'm totally open. And because I know Canada is like really, really big, and y'all have had a different experience as far as the new norm. So being able to hear like, well, this is happening in Canada, this is happening in America. I feel like this is the most that we've been able to really intermingle, and realizing that we're neighbors and that we can connect and we can do stuff still. Like, I feel like before 2020, like Canada was just like not really a part of the landscape for me. Like, we know it's there, but like
as a Canadian, we're like, no, we're very aware of where America is. I think we share the longest border in the world, and 85% of our trade, I think this is probably old stats, but like 85% of Canadian trade is with Americans. I don't think we're as important, or we're as important to you as you are to us, just because I think at least you've got 10 times the population, and there's so much culture and industry, of course, that comes across just being so close to a global superpower for the last 100 years, and watching how that changes as we go forward. But I know, I think it's something like 90% of Canadians, fun fact about Canada, and then we can move on, but live within 150 miles, I think, of the US border. So we're a huge, vast country. All of our major cities, I think with one exception, are really close to the border. And so there is that proximity piece for sure. And then when that was closed for the pandemic, that was really interesting experience for lots of folks that cross on a daily, weekly basis for work and for travel, of course. And so here we are, we're open for business on both sides. And I think, lots of shared similarities. It's been fun. I've got to actually also, speaking of not just professionalism, but the joy of cross-border work. I have a career coaching contract with an MBA program in Chicago at Loyola University. And so I have a cohort of 10 incredible MBA students, like purpose-centered students that I get to work with. And so I've got like a little flavor of the Midwest coming into my living room here a handful of times a month, which is just, I don't know, it's magic. It's cool. And there's a lot that we do have in common.
Yeah, it is. And I really feel like I'm happy that this has really been redefining professionalism overall, because before we were just really just using the internet for a lot of like just like personal play, wheelhouse, like, you know, let me just go check the baseball stats or something.
Totally.
And now, like, you know, the professionals are like really getting, you know, more acclimated, they're getting more situated, we're learning to offer more screen time, you know, and it's helping us to be more personal as well. You know, how else can we create a more personal touch by you know, connecting with other like-minded individuals, and on top of them being also professional and being able to just show that streamline, that to be coached, you know, it's there's nothing, you know, extravagant that's going on.
No.
You know?
No, it's me showing up and asking some questions, like holding a safe space, and like, you know, some cheerleading, some sounding board, some accountability, occasionally some tough love. But fundamentally, it's me showing up, and it's the other person showing up, and us having a conversation. So there's no magic in this. It's not high tech. It's as low tech as like humanity has always been, right? It's conversations. Facilitated by tech.
Yeah, you know, so like, I feel like, you know, that's the big reason of like coming with this point of like seeing the similarities, that, you know, to be a coach, it means, like, in layman's term, we're here to help you to be accountable. We're here to help you see your goal and continue your goal and strive with that goal. And so I like it that we're able to show, like, look, this person is across the border. They're representing the same like similar values of consistency, of empowerment, of forward moving progress. And, you know, personal development is that is what it needs to be in a bag. And at the end of the day, all it is like, okay, does that coach fit, you know,
completely
for you forward?
Completely. You know? Does the vibe work? And is it somebody that you can see, like, folks will see this YouTube, like, do I vibe with Mahatma? Yeah, 100%. I can work with her. I can reach out. And before, without platforms like this, like I don't know, you wouldn't have been in my friend network or like extended kind of professional network and community, right? And so we have that opportunity to really find coaches or healers or consultants, whatever we're looking for, accountants, that's an important one as we go through our money stuff, right? Who really vibe with our values and with our way of showing up in the world, our level of professionalism, whatever that means. So there's just a wider pool of people we can access and get to work with.
Because I don't know if you've heard, and I think it might have been a Canadian video, but somebody was talking about like how in a couple of years, coaches are going to take up a much more larger demographic of professional jobs, opportunities, and it's just becoming such a pivotal, necessary function of how we're going to be able to readjust in society for ourselves, personally and professionally. I'm seeing, even for myself, a redefining of like coaching, because like when I was like being presented to coaching, it was just like the world of becoming a health coach, you know, and a life coach. And then like once I got into there, you know, you hear about all these other kind of coaches. I'm really like excited for like the menopause coaches. Like I'm not even there. But the fact that we have that.
Completely. I think coaching is brilliant as a modality for whenever we're in these like times of transition. And what I think, to your point about coaching, is I love, like, the pace of change has just accelerated, and the technological advancements and all of this. And so to the rise potential of coaching, or its infusion into different industries and applications than maybe we've seen in the past, of like health coach, life coach, and maybe some CEOs have like Tony Robbins style coaching, right? As well as like athletic coaches that we all know about. But I think it's because, or one of the things that I've heard is because we used to have, like, promote managers and leaders who were subject matter experts in whatever thing, and then they could teach their teams on how to do that well. So like a sales expert or a technical expert, an engineer or a developer, something like that. But because the technology is changing so quickly, the folks who are now managing and leading don't necessarily understand the roles that they're managing and leading, and they can't do them. And that's fine, because it's a different skill set. But then if you don't like fundamentally understand how to do somebody's job better than they do, which is shorthand, like that's kind of how it used to work in a lot of ways, then you have to be able to ask questions to understand what they need from you, and to understand where their barriers are. And like, you can't direct as a manager or leader in the same way. You have to pull in this non-directive form of coaching in order to help your teams really succeed. And by virtue, like, your company or your organization, whatever that kind of end goal is for you, whether a nonprofit or a corporation. And so you really have to get curious and lead through your teams. And to do that, coaching and question asking, so that you can remove the blocks and let people, like you said, empower earlier, you can empower them to do their jobs. So I think that's why it's kind of on the rise, as well as just the level of customization that it can provide, because we all come with our own stuff and our own experiences. And so, like, it's not a one size fits all approach to get the best out of people. And so that's where it's like, well, let me understand your motivations. They're totally different than your 5 other teammates. And then how do you get the best out of people as well?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a major thing. And being able to marginalize on these transitions, I have learned that if you really like think about it, my background is from the accounting world.
Right. Yeah.
And so I worked for a lot of different companies, and I worked at the inner workings of the company. I just wasn't being a field worker or, assignment worker. I was being, the delegator and the facilitator of how the books should end up looking at the end of the year. And what I was noticing with the different businesses is that a lot of business owners don't actually have the coaching or the business ethic to release their baby.
Yeah.
And so a lot of companies at this point right now, reality currently, a lot of people are at this epicenter of like, okay, I've had this baby going for 40, 50 years, but am I letting it expand? Am I allowing it to go to its next phase? Or am I still being the parent child and babying all of the roles, all of the positions? And that doesn't really help for transition if you're going to still be, coddling it as if it doesn't know how to move on its own engine. And so, like, I'm like, for me, like, listening and hearing and having this conversation, it's a big reason of why I was pushed into the realm that I was in, because like one of the last, like, we'll say 9 to 5s that I was like invested in, they were really looking to bring and strive to bring back more healthy mindfulness to their office. And that was a very big challenge because the ownership wanted it, but the ownership didn't know how to delegate that to the managers to make sure it got facilitated.
Right.
And so, like, much to what you were speaking on, that they don't have that training, and it just takes a specific individual to be able to have this indirect directive modality. And so, will the title of coaching change into something else? Who knows? But at the end of the day, you can change the title to whatever you want it to
Doesn't
be.
matter.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We can throw whichever buzzwords about whichever industry is trendy at the time. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah. But it's an approach. It's kind of a mindset to approaching leadership or health or whatever particular, like that time of transition or something that you want to change, menopause. I think it's the way of relationship, call it what you like.
Right.
Yeah.
And I use standard coaching understandings to help people really live into what it is that they're accepting themselves to walk into, contemplating to walk into. Because if you think about it, no one that has actually been successful did not become successful without a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, who could be one person that we can name? I don't even.
I think Elon Musk probably hasn't hired many coaches. He's gone his own way.
He doesn't make good decisions.
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation. All the thoughts. Don't want to derail us.
But I mean, it shows if he had a coach, maybe he wouldn't have offered that Twitter question and got himself beaten off. Like,
yeah.
Who was in his mindful ear at that time?
Yeah.
And these are billion-dollar choices that, successful people are making. And you can see, like, we're going to be susceptible to making a really, like, coarse choice that can really ultimately affect us in the long run without having, like, those mindful individuals that are out there, and like it. I always like to, like, use, like, for, like, basketball or whatever, like, Michael Jordan didn't become Michael Jordan by himself. He became Michael Jordan by getting proper coaching, proper training, and at the beginning, the team didn't want him.
I didn't know that.
They did not want Michael Jordan.
Wow.
And so he went back to the drawing board, went and got additional training, got additional coaching, and he got himself to a level to be wanted. And now, it's very difficult to go without talking about Michael Jordan, and someone's like, who's that? Like, really?
Right. Totally. Welcome, Gen Zs. We love it. Yeah. Yeah.
So is there anyone, like, for you that comes to your mind that you're like, yeah, this person, definitely succeeded because they got themselves adequate training?
The person who comes to mind right now is Liz Gilbert. And so Eat, Pray, Love is how everybody knows Elizabeth Gilbert. She's also a prolific author of a whole bunch of different types of books, from novels to biopics to kind of memoir. And she's doing a speaking tour right now. And this is the impetus I need to book a ticket to go see her in April. But if you listen to her podcast, she's just so engaging. I'm sure you've listened to a lot of her speaking, but she speaks not necessarily about coaching, but absolutely about finding, like, mentors and learning from people from a whole bunch of different walks of life, and different cultures over the years. And obviously she's traveled a lot. But I think it's really that openness to learning from others with a different worldview than yourself, and actively seeking that out and integrating what resonates with who you are at your core. And I think that's another piece that I really love about coaching, is that they weren't trying to change Michael Jordan, or you're not trying to change Liz Gilbert or Mahatma Starseed or myself when I go into a coaching relationship. It's really allowing your essence to come forward, and a good coach will help you, like, comes from the place that we're all whole as we are, and we're all brilliant and unique and messy and complex and all of the things, and just to draw you more into being yourself and inviting you more into that, and popping in some confidence and some clarity and some kind of goals along the way, or helping you achieve the goals that you have and even say them into the world, but not fundamentally make you into somebody else. And so I think that's a really cool piece. It's like helping you become more of who you are so that you can play a little bit bigger and braver in the world.
Yeah, it's some beautiful stuff, and I know a lot of people out there that listen or have listened in the past, they're not too sure about it, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's gonna be worth it if you try it. You hold less regret when you attempt something versus never attempting anything. And I like to stand by that. So of course our conversation went by completely
so quickly.
So I just wanted to ask you one more fun question.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you're not expecting this.
Oh no.
But it's fun.
Uh-huh.
So
it's fun. Yeah.
I will answer it too, of course.
Okay.
If you could characterize yourself as a coach, what would that look like? And you can use like something that people would know of. You don't have to create like a whole thing.
Right.
You can characterize yourself. And I always tell people, use a cartoon figure. It's more fun that way.
Ooh. Who am I as a cartoon? Oh my goodness. Oh, cartoon. Okay, you go first. Let me think on this one. And
okay, cool.
Cartoons are not my jam. I'm like historical. I don't know. Okay, go.
It's gonna come to you. Okay,
Yeah.
So like for me, I mean, I've had this practice for some time, like in my head, because I do like a lot of like character socialization. And so like for me, I always tell people I'm like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. I'm like Tigger. Like
yeah.
You're definitely gonna meet me with some energy, So I always tell people like try to see where you can frame yourself in whatever kind of like cartoon character play. And like even like I don't know if you watch Saved by the Bell, like even if it was like if you were to have to pick a cast member on like Saved by the Bell,
right.
who would you be, kind of a thing. It doesn't have to be Saved by the Bell.
Totally.
Anything.
Okay, I'm gonna throw in my own spin, but like Canadian as well. Anne of Green Gables. Do we know Anne of Green Gables? Do you know her as a literary character?
I think so. I think so.
She is an 11-year-old orphan who's a tempestuous redhead, and she's always getting into scrapes. In retrospect, she's totally got ADHD, as I learned in the last couple of years that I do. And she's like, she loves hard, and she's always got really good intentions, but kind of like bumbling through life a little bit. And she dyes her hair black or green accidentally because she hates her red hair and she's trying to dye it black. And she gets her friend drunk on like her aunt's. She thought it was, I don't know, like blackberry juice or something, but it's currant wine and they're 12. And so I think I come with like a lot of heart and a lot of try anything once. People like really, I think a lot of people kind of like me and like the energy. Like she means well, even if she means well, even if the delivery is sometimes a little all over the place and we're always running late. We're always like bumping into things and it just goes a little bit sideways. Yeah, that's what I can offer in this moment.
That's a good one. That was a good one. It's a little bit more lighter to play on the mind, like to characterize yourself.
Totally. I mean, I would love to be, oh my gosh, Jessica Rabbit, like just as like, let's throw in like all the confidence, all the sophistication, all the boom, but I don't, that's the other one that's coming to mind. And that's not quite, that's a little bit less right.
You need a Roger Rabbit for that.
Yeah, true story. These are Valentine's Day flowers, so maybe I found one.
Like, where's my Roger?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, it's just a great fun little joke that I like to because there's so many parts and facets of us. And to be a coach, I love to keep the boundaries, I love to keep the sanity, and I love to keep consistency. But most importantly, I love to just keep it light, and you can go further the lighter you keep it. you know.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
And so when we know who we can be, tend to be, you know, and because like a lot of times, like sometimes people might push us to be more of a coach than we want to be. So we have to be mindful of the character inside that will come out.
Totally. Oh, I love that. I guess it's all over TikTok. One of my clients who's a Gen Z, brilliant, fabulous 24, almost 25-year-old, the other, I don't know, a couple of months ago was talking about she's on this like trip of a lifetime and she was in Spain, I think at the time. And she's like, oh, something that her mom said was in her ear about, you know, being frivolous and what are you doing and all of the stuff. Right. And it just completely changed her mindset for this week of like how amazing what she's doing is. And so she's like, I need to harness this like main character energy that's like zipping around on TikToks and reels and things like that. And so very much like, who's that? And actually another client also was like vibing with Disney villains. Like she's like, I need a theme song. I need to be a bad bitch. I think we can say this on YouTube. So I love that. I'm gonna remember to pull it in and figure out. Yeah.
Now we got a main character for you.
Yeah, completely. Thank you. I'm lighter already. Yeah. It's fun, right? Coaching is fun. Like even if and when the topics that we are talking about are like really close to our heart and can weigh heavily.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just human. We're trying to figure it out. And like the more you talk to people, the more you know. We're all just trying to figure it out. So like take a bit of pressure off of yourself and like, how can this be fun is one of the questions. What's the easiest way that you can get through this situation? How can it be fun? Like for me, working from home, speaking of professionalism, I never wear makeup anymore, but I'm like, oh, you know, it's a Wednesday morning. I can throw some makeup on for this one. And like, for me in this moment, it's fun because it didn't have to be performative. It wasn't the expectation of how I show up every day to be profesh. And so those types of things where we realize how much, even on small things, agency we have, I think it's a really cool part of this new world of professionalism and coaching and life that we're all in.
Oh my goodness. I think we just redefined the definition. Professionalism is now being being you unapologetically. That's the new professionalism.
Ooh, yes. I love that.
It is unprofessional to not be yourself anymore.
Yeah, I think you just like summed that up perfectly. That's exactly what it is.
This is beautiful. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What a gift. What a great conversation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate this space. You helped me make it really light with all of the resistance that we entailed. So I always bring my bowl to end my sessions. I usually give a little bit more, but you know, with this resistance, we're just gonna bring the bowl and be back next time.
Love it. Oh.
So thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you, elite audience. Thank you to myself.
Thank you for creating the space for us.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna tune out to all of you that are watching. Peace and love. Till next time. This is Mahatma Starseed with my co-host.
Bye.
Now I gotta figure out how to stop the recording. Right?
Completely. It's harder on your